There comes a moment in history when the winds change, when the signs in the heavens speak louder than the noise of the earth, when prophecy is no longer a distant echo, but a trumpet blast in the now. That moment is here. The last sign has appeared, not in secret, not in shadows, but in plain sight for all who have eyes to see and ears to hear. And yet the world sleeps. This is not a time for slumber. This is the hour to awaken, to ready your lamp, and to keep your eyes fixed on the eastern sky. There is a difference between seeing the clouds in the sky and knowing that a storm is coming. One is observation, the other is discernment. You can stand on a shoreline and watch the tide pull back, but unless you understand what it means, you will not run for higher ground when the tsunami is on its way. Right now, the world is watching events unfold, wars rising like waves, moral boundaries collapsing like sandcastles, the earth trembling beneath our feet, and yet so many shrugs saying, "It's always been this way." But the Spirit is whispering to those who will listen, this is not the slow drift of history, this is the quickening, the tightening of the birth pains. Recognizing the season is not the same as simply reading the signs. A man once told the story of his grandfather who lived on the slopes of Mount St. Helens before the Great Eruption in 1980. There were tremors for weeks, smoke rising from the mountain, wildlife fleeing, but he dismissed it, saying the mountain had always acted like that. On the morning of May 18th, without further warning, the volcano erupted with a force so great it leveled everything in its path. He was among those who didn't survive. Why? Because he saw the signs but did not discern the season. This is exactly what Jesus warned the Pharisees about when he said they could read the weather by the color of the sky, yet could not discern the time of their visitation. They had the scriptures, the prophecies, the miracles unfolding before their eyes, blind receiving sight, lepers cleansed, the dead raised. But they refused to recognize that the Messiah was standing in their midst. They were experts in religious law, but deaf to the voice of God. Today, we risk repeating their mistake. Prophecies given thousands of years ago are aligning in our headlines with precision, yet the world treats them like background noise. But to those who are awake, this is the call to prepare. Not tomorrow, not when it feels urgent, but now, because the season is not defined by comfort or convenience, it is defined by God's appointed time. In the days of Noah, there was a span of 120 years from the warning to the flood. Each hammer strike on the ark was a sign, yet the people laughed, going on with their marriages, their businesses, their feasts. And then the rain began, and the season had shifted from preparation to judgment. The door was shut, not because God had changed his mind, but because the time had come. This is why recognizing the season is vital. It changes how you live today. If you knew your flight left in 1 hour, you would not waste time packing for a vacation next year. You would grab what matters most and head to the gate. In the same way, if you truly believed we are living in the moments before the rapture, you would forgive quickly, repent sincerely, love deeply, and live with your eyes fixed upward. Seasons in the kingdom are not measured by calendars, but by divine alignments. The fig tree putting forth leaves means summer is near, and the signs we see: Israel restored, global unrest, moral decay, the gospel reaching the ends of the earth, are the leaves that tell us the harvest is close. To ignore this is to be like the 5 foolish virgins holding empty lamps when the bridegroom arrives. But to recognize it is to be counted among the wise, with oil ready, lamps burning, and hearts unshaken. The danger is not in failing to see the signs, it's in seeing them and thinking we still have time. When the moment comes, there will be no time to prepare. The trumpet will not sound with a countdown, and the heavens will not send a courtesy text to warn you of the hour. In that instant, in the twinkling of an eye, eternity will break into time, and the window for readiness will be forever closed. The sobering truth is this: the time to be ready is not in the future, it is now. Readiness is not a last-minute scramble, it is a way of life. Think of the 2011 tsunami in Japan. Hours before the waves struck, warnings were broadcast across the nation, sirens wailed, evacuation orders were given. Many heeded the call and fled to higher ground, but others hesitated, finishing their shopping, returning home to gather belongings, or waiting to see if the danger would pass. Those moments of hesitation cost lives. The tragedy was not that they didn't hear the warning. It was that they didn't act on it in time. Spiritually, this is where so many stand today. They believe in the return of the Lord. They know the signs. They intend to get serious about their walk with God one day. But one day will come and go, and the door will shut. Jesus painted this picture in the parable of the 10 virgins. All 10 were invited to the wedding. All had lamps. All were waiting for the bridegroom. But only 5 were wise enough to bring extra oil. When the cry rang out at midnight, "Behold, the bridegroom is coming!" They all rose to light their lamps, but for the foolish ones, the flame had gone out. They begged the wise for oil, but it was too late. While they went to buy more, the bridegroom came, the door was shut, and they were left outside. The point is painfully clear: you cannot borrow readiness in the final hour, you must live in it every day. This readiness is not about fear, but about love, about valuing the one you are waiting for so deeply that you refuse to let anything come between you and him. It means choosing holiness when compromise is easier, prayer when distraction is tempting, obedience when disobedience seems harmless. Readiness is not forged in panic, but in the quiet, consistent decisions of daily faithfulness. It is built in the early morning when you open the Word instead of your phone, in the late night when you whisper a prayer instead of indulging in sin, in the moments when you say, yes, to God even when it costs you. Imagine a soldier in the king's guard. He does not wait until the enemy is at the gate to put on his armor. He sleeps in it, trains in it, eats in it, because he knows the call to arms could come at any moment. In the same way, readiness for the return of the Lord is not seasonal. It is constant. And here is the beauty. Those who live ready do not live in dread but in joy, like a bride who wakes every morning wondering if this will be the day her beloved returns. Readiness fills life with a holy expectation. You start to see every decision as preparation for a greater day. You choose purity not just to avoid sin, but to keep your wedding garment unstained. You forgive quickly not just to be at peace, but because you want no bitterness in your heart when you see him face to face. This is why the enemy fights so hard to keep you distracted. Because a ready believer is a dangerous believer, one who cannot be swayed by fear or temptation. But if you will guard your lamp, keep your oil full, and live as if today is the day, you will not be shaken when the midnight cry pierces the darkness. You will rise with joy, your flame burning bright, and enter into the wedding feast of the Lamb. And when that moment comes, you will not look back at what you left behind. You will only see the face of the one you've been waiting for, and every sacrifice will have been worth it. The greatest threat to your soul in this hour is not open persecution. It is quiet distraction. The enemy has learned that he doesn't need to chain your hands if he can chain your attention, that he doesn't need to silence your voice if he can fill your ears with noise. In our day, the lullabies of the world are constant, endless scrolling, the flicker of 1,000 screens, the seduction of entertainment that numbs rather than awakens, the obsession with the urgent that pushes aside the eternal. It is a subtle war, fought not with swords but with notifications. In 1912, the Titanic received multiple ice warnings from nearby ships, yet the crew pressed forward, distracted by the schedule, the comfort of the passengers, and the illusion of invincibility. When the iceberg struck, the music was still playing, people were still laughing, and some didn't even believe the danger was real until it was too late. That is the spirit of our generation. Life as usual while the ship is heading for collision. Heaven is sounding alarms right now through prophecy, through the shaking of nations, through signs in creation. But the world drowns it out with the noise of self-indulgence. In the days of Lot, the city of Sodom was on the brink of judgment, yet its people were eating, drinking, buying, selling, planting, building, so consumed with their routines that they could not perceive the storm gathering over their heads. The angels came to warn Lot, but even then, his sons-in-law laughed it off as a joke. That's how distraction works. It dulls the urgency of truth until it feels unnecessary. But to the one whose ears are tuned to heaven, distraction loses its power. A soldier on the battlefield does not put in earbuds to listen to music while the enemy advances. He sharpens his senses, scanning the horizon for every movement. Spiritually, that's the posture we must take. We are living in the most prophetic time since the days of the apostles, yet the temptation to drift into the current of entertainment, politics, materialism, and self-absorption is stronger than ever. Distraction doesn't always look sinful. Sometimes it just looks busy. But business without eternal focus is a slow spiritual death. The call of God is to be watchful, to keep your spirit alert, to hear the voice of the shepherd above the noise of the world. It means setting boundaries around your heart, silencing the voices that pull you into fear, lust, or pride, and guarding your time like it's treasure, because it is. Every hour you give to distraction is an hour stolen from your readiness, your calling, and your intimacy with him. Mary understood this when she sat at the feet of Jesus while Martha was busy serving. Martha's work wasn't sinful, but it was secondary. And Jesus said Mary had chosen the better portion, one that would not be taken from her. In the same way, we must choose the better portion in this hour, time in his presence, time in his word, time listening for his whisper. Because when the trumpet sounds, it will not be the distracted who hear it first. It will be the watchful, the ones who refuse to let the noise of the world drown out the song of heaven. The alarms are sounding. The question is not whether God is speaking, but whether you are listening. There will come a moment when standing for truth will cost you everything. And if you are not prepared to stand apart now, you will fall when that moment arrives. The path of the righteous has never been the path of the crowd. It has always been the narrow road, the unpopular road, the road that leads you away from the comfort of conformity and into the fire of conviction. In 2015, A young Christian woman named Miriam Ibrahim from Sudan was imprisoned for refusing to renounce her faith in Christ. She was 8 months pregnant, chained in a cell, sentenced to death for apostasy. The government offered her a simple way out: deny Jesus and live. But she refused. Her answer was steady, unshaken: I will not deny him. She gave birth in prison, raised her newborn in chains, and when international pressure finally secured her release, she walked free, not just from a prison, but from the world's demand that she bow. That is the courage the final hour will require. The Bible is filled with such moments of costly faith. Think of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego standing before the towering image of golden Babylon, surrounded by thousands bowing low as the music played. The command was clear: bow or burn. The pressure was immense. These were not just nameless faces in the crowd, but fellow exiles, their own people, who chose compromise over courage. Yet the 3 young men stood tall. They could have reasoned, we'll bow with our bodies but worship God in our hearts. But compromise in the small things paves the way for collapse in the great ones. They declared to King Nebuchadnezzar, we will not serve your gods, nor worship the golden image you have set up. And when they were thrown into the furnace, the fire that was meant to destroy them became the place where they met the presence of the Son of God. That is what it means to stand apart. The fire may come, but so will the 4th man. In these last days, the pressure to blend in will not always come as a blatant command to worship an idol. Sometimes it will come as the silent expectation to agree with what you know is wrong, to stay quiet when truth is mocked, to go along for the sake of peace. But the call of Christ is not to blend in, it is to be a light that shines in darkness. And light by its nature cannot blend. It exposes, it separates, it draws a line that can be seen from far away. This is not a time for hidden faith. It is a time for holy defiance against anything that exalts itself against the knowledge of God. And here is the secret: the strength to stand in the furnace is built in the daily choice to stand when the stakes are small. Every time you choose truth over lies, purity over compromise, prayer over distraction, you are training your spirit for the day when the music plays and the world bows. The applause of the crowd is temporary, the reward of heaven is eternal. And when you stand apart, you will find that you are not alone. The same Spirit who filled Stephen as he faced the stones, the same courage that strengthened Daniel in the lion's den, the same presence that walked with the 3 Hebrew men in the flames, that same God will stand with you. The fire may roar, the crowd may mock, the cost may feel high, but the joy of hearing, well done, good and faithful servant, will outweigh it all. In the end, it is better to stand alone with God than to bow with the world and be left without Him. When you live as if today could be the day you see Him face to face, it transforms every choice, every conversation, every heartbeat, because the weight of eternity presses into the moment. Expectation purifies the soul like fire refines gold. It burns away the lesser things, leaving only what is worthy of the king. In 2010, a small mining town in Chile watched as 33 men were trapped half a mile beneath the earth for 69 days. They had no guarantee of rescue, but they prepared as if it could come at any moment. They rationed food, cleared debris, and kept watch for the sound of drills breaking through. And when the moment finally came, they were ready to step into the light. That's how we are called to live, not in fear of the dark, but in expectation of the rescue. The Apostle John wrote, "Everyone who has this hope in him purifies himself just as he is pure." Hope is not passive, it is active. It shapes how you speak to your children, how you handle temptation, how you spend your time. It makes you ask, if I saw him tonight, would I be glad I chose this? That's why the final sign is not only a warning, but a harvest call. The rapture is not the end of the mission. It is the gathering of the bride, and heaven's heart is that none should be left behind. Think of the sinking Titanic again. While lifeboats were being lowered, many passengers hesitated, not wanting to leave the safety of the great ship. Others, already in the lifeboats, looked back and saw hundreds still on the deck. What if those in the boats had said nothing, had made no attempt to pull more aboard? That is the spiritual reality of our hour. If we are secure in Christ, our mission is to reach back for those still on the deck, calling them to the safety of the cross before the final plunge. This urgency drove Paul, who endured beatings, shipwrecks, and prison, to preach the gospel, because he knew the day was coming when the chance to speak would be gone. But to live with this urgency, you must also see life from heaven's perspective when storms rage. The shaking of nations, the rise and fall of leaders, the chaos in the streets, all of it can make the heart tremble if your eyes are fixed on the news. But if your gaze is fixed on the throne, you realize that the shaking is not the end, it's the preparation. God has never been surprised by a headline. He writes them before they happen. He saw the Red Sea before Israel reached its shores, and he had already appointed the wind that would split it. He saw the giant before David stepped onto the battlefield, and he had already chosen the smooth stones in the stream. In the same way, he sees every upheaval in your life, every storm on the horizon, and he has already written the victory into the script. The world may see chaos, but heaven sees alignment. The kingdoms of this world are being shaken, so the kingdom that cannot be shaken may be revealed. And when you live in that reality, fear loses its grip. You stop reacting like the world, and you start moving like a citizen of heaven, steady, unshaken, radiant with hope. You become the miner listening for the sound of rescue, the passenger pulling others into the lifeboat, the warrior who fights not in panic but in faith. And when the trumpet sounds, you will not be caught off guard. You will rise with joy, knowing you lived every day with your lamp full, your heart pure, your mission burning, and your eyes fixed on the one who is coming. Beloved, the last sign has appeared. The time is no longer far off. It is now. This is not the hour to fear, but the hour to stand. Lift up your head, for your redemption is drawing near. The bridegroom is at the door, the trumpet is in the hand of the angel, and the king is ready to step onto the clouds. Do not be found asleep. Keep your lamp full, your eyes open, and your heart unshaken. The one who promised is faithful, and he is coming quickly.